Don't go to bed angry. A good relationship means never having to say you're sorry. Your relationship is supposed to make you happy. These are just some of the most common relationship myths that we're going to be talking about today, and I'm either going to completely debunk them or admit maybe there's some truth to them. Now, I usually avoid giving short answers to complex problems, but for the sake of time, I'm going to try to go through these as quick as I can because I have a lot of good ones for you today. So do me a favor, give me some grace. I'm sure we'll agree on some of these and disagree on others. Let's just try to have fun. All right, first myth, true love means never fighting. Okay, I will concede that we shouldn't be fighting in the sense of being aggressive or calling each other names or yelling at each other. You're right, that's not loving. But if you're saying true love means never getting into a disagreement or an argument, that's stupid, because conflict is a normal and natural part of any healthy relationship. It's actually essential for intimacy, because couples that never argue are often staying silent out of fear or because they don't trust it's safe for them to be honest, and that only leads to distance and disconnection. You're going to disagree on things. You're going to butt heads every now and then. You're going to even get annoyed and frustrated and hurt from time to time. Welcome to being in love. All that stuff is a given. What's not a given is how you both decide to handle those moments, because conflict is actually an opportunity to strengthen your bond together, because you have a chance to listen and move towards your partner with curiosity and understanding and help them feel seen, heard, and valued. What makes all the difference in whether your relationship survives or not is whether you can navigate conflict with respect. That means listening to each other's perspective. That means seeking to understand their pain or needs or desires. It means taking accountability for your side of the street and learning how to repair any unintentional hurt through actually apologizing instead of shutting down or getting defensive or telling them that their feelings are irrational. Myth number 2, your partner should complete you. No, they absolutely should not. Please don't complete each other. You can complement each other. You can support each other. You can even depend on each other in healthy ways. But they do not complete you. This is why codependent relationships are so dangerous, because we've attached our value, we've attached our purpose and our identity to another person. Now, of course, if we deeply love someone, we don't want to be without them, but it becomes dangerous when we feel like we can't feel valuable unless they tell us we're valuable. It becomes dangerous when we start believing them when they blame us for why they're mistreating us. It becomes dangerous when we want to save them or heal them with our love. You can't take on the responsibility of saving someone. That will only lead to you feeling like you're abandoning yourself. Myth number 3, your partner should fulfill all your needs. No, your partner is not your personal need-fulfilling machine. Having said that, there are certain needs that we should want to provide for each other, like the need for intimacy, the need for connection, the need for trust and consistency and empathy. These are opportunities to grow closer to each other, to deepen our love for one another. If I were you, I would get clear on what each other thinks that they need in a relationship to feel valued and loved, and how they would like those to be fulfilled. I'm not saying you have to meet all those needs, but we should at least be meeting the ones that we can, because that's what love would do, right? Number 4, if it's meant to be, it will be easy. Couldn't be farther from the truth. If you've seen any of my videos, you know how passionate I am about saying it always takes 2 people doing the work to make a relationship work. Relationships simply cannot be put on autopilot and everything just be fine. It just doesn't work that way. Relationships aren't meant to be easy. Do you know why? Because selflessness isn't easy. Consideration isn't always easy. Being intentional about building trust and intimacy together and serving someone else, even someone you love, isn't always easy. Now, I'm certainly not saying that relationships should feel like a job that you hate and you just keep going regardless. Relationships aren't supposed to be work in the sense of you just dealing with someone else's toxic behavior or chronically putting their needs above your own when there's no reciprocation, or trying to heal their trauma for them. That's not the work I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that anything worthwhile requires effort, right? If you're training for a marathon, you know that's not going to be easy. If you're trying to get that degree, you know it's going to require sacrifice. If you're building a house for your family, we know that's going to be a lot of work, but it's rewarding and it's worth it. And your relationship is the same. You give me 2 people who are willing to put in the work of humility and self-reflection and consideration and holding ourselves accountable, 2 people who actually want to serve each other in the ways that their partner feels valued most. That's the work that leads to a successful relationship. And make no mistake, it's not always easy, but it is always worth it. All right, next myth, love is all you need. Definitely not. This is kind of one that builds on the last one, because I've seen plenty of relationships where someone says they love their partner, but when you explore how they are demonstrating that love, it's clear that they either don't understand what love is, or they're simply not capable of it. You will need a lot more than someone saying the words, I love you. Frankly, I don't even care about your words. I care about whether you're respecting them with your actions. I care about whether you're treating them like an equal. I care about whether you can apologize and repair conflict. I care about whether you belittle them or demean or invalidate them when they're vulnerable with you. Yes, of course love is important, but let's not forget that within love is the willingness to serve mutually, to build trust and communication with each other. Love is intentional and empathetic and thoughtful. Don't tell me you love someone when the only person you think about is yourself. We should love others and we should love ourselves. That means practicing self-compassion and forgiving ourselves. It means protecting ourselves and advocating for our needs, wants, and desires. It means learning how to set healthy boundaries and not abandoning ourselves in order to prevent feeling disconnected from someone else who's not respecting us in the first place. All right, next myth, and this is a spicy one. If you have to schedule bedroom intimacy with your partner, then it's an indication that the relationship is failing. Intimacy should always be spontaneous, right? Wrong. Now, sexual intimacy should always be consensual. It should always be safe and considerate and kind. But no, it's not always going to be spontaneous or spicy. And that's perfectly normal because life is chaotic and stressful, and there's a ton of factors that impact our desire and arousal for each other, right? And this is a great opportunity to ask your partner, hey, what impacts your desire? Do you need to feel emotionally connected before we get in bed? Or is the bedroom the primary way you feel connected to me? Let's work on this as a team. And here's the deal when it comes to scheduled bedroom time. We need to get very clear on what that means because it's not fair to go into this with all these expectations on what has to happen. A better phrase is scheduling intimacy together because the goal is to take all the pressure off of our partner. We want them to feel relaxed and comfortable and considered in this. Now, a lot of men have spontaneous desire and a lot of women have responsive desire. It could be the opposite for you. These are just the averages. Responsive desire means I'm willing to try to become aroused and have desire in response to something, such as cuddling, kissing, a bath together, or just talking. But someone can't have that willingness if they don't feel safe. So we need to remind our partner that we're a safe place for them, that they can communicate with us. We're open, we're excited to prioritize intimacy with them, but that doesn't equal penetration, right? And the last thing I'll say about scheduled intimacy, people think it's really boring, but if you do it right, if Tuesday night is your night to do something intimate together, whatever that looks like for you, you can make it really fun. You can text each other during the day. You can build the anticipation. If you have a safe, playful relationship together, this is just another opportunity to intentionally put the spark back in your relationship. And just because it's not as passionate as it was back in the day, that doesn't mean it's still not building trust and connection together. So bottom line, have the type of relationship where you can communicate openly about this stuff and brainstorm as a team how to have the most fulfilling sex life together in a way where no one feels like they're abandoning their boundaries or feeling neglected. All right, number 7, staying with the theme of the bedroom. Who has heard the advice, don't go to bed angry? Terrible advice. Absolutely go to bed angry sometimes. Just don't let your anger spill over into tomorrow and then the next day and then the next day. Don't go to bed angry is just bad advice. I mean, let's just think about it. What's the goal here? Solve the issue when we're both angry and flooded and triggered with each other at 11 p.m.? How is that good advice? What do we think is going to happen when one person is just tired and wants the conflict to end? So they say, okay, fine, I'm sorry. You're right, I'm wrong. Can we go to bed now? That's certainly not going to solve anything. And the other scenario is you're both escalating this fight to the point of yelling at each other because you're enraged, you're just talking over each other, and that's not going to help anything either. Some of the best relationship advice is learning how to recognize signs in yourself and your partner that they are flooded and triggered, because that means that the thinking part of their brain has turned off and they are now in the fear center of their brain, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. When that happens, the best thing we can do is take a mandatory break. That doesn't mean avoid the conflict forever. It means take a 30-minute break or sleep on it and then intentionally revisit the conversation the next day to either resolve it or at least talk about it respectfully and calmly. If you can't do that, if you just avoid these hard discussions altogether, or if you have them in unhealthy, toxic ways, you will stay disconnected in your relationship. Hard conversations aren't optional. They're essential if we want to be connected, but we have to do them in the right way. All right, next up, a good relationship means never having to say you're sorry. Absolutely backwards. A good relationship means apologizing all the time. Now, I'm not saying give hollow apologies. I'm not saying apologize for things you didn't do. I'm just saying if there's one thing I know for certain, it's that we all hurt our partners more than we realize. We unintentionally ignore or neglect them. We make a joke at their expense, but we didn't do it in a malicious way. but it still hurt their feelings. You want your relationship to thrive? Become experts at seeking them out, recognizing when their feelings are a little hurt and being a safe place for them to tell you, hey, that hurt, and then explore and validate that. A cheap apology is fine, I'm sorry. An inconsiderate apology is, okay, well, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Or, geez, it was just a joke. Can we get over it? The appropriate way to apologize is as soon as we know we hurt them, regardless of whether it was unintentional, we move towards them with curiosity and love. Tell me what happened. I'm here. I'm present. Tell me what you're feeling because it matters to me. Once we understand their experience, we validate their feelings as real and important. Yeah, it makes sense why you felt disrespected when I told that joke. I mean, I certainly didn't intend to hurt you, but I can see now how it did hurt you. Thank you for being honest with me. I'm really sorry. I won't joke like that again. Make sure your apologies don't include buts. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't have done that if you would have just... Apologies take responsibility. You don't have to apologize for what you didn't do. Just apologize for what you know you could have done better. True apologies start with curiosity and understanding. They move through empathy and validation and end with repair by taking accountability for our side of the street and expressing genuine remorse that we hurt someone we love. That's what builds trust in this relationship. Never apologizing breaks trust. And do not forget that the best apology is changed behavior. All right, myth number 9, the grass is greener on the other side. No, the grass is greener where you water it. Okay, that's not entirely true. I just wanted to say it because it sounded cool. The truth is, if you're in a toxic relationship, if your partner doesn't care about your needs or feelings or desires, you can water that grass all you want. It's never going to be green because it takes two of you watering it, right? Sometimes the grass is greener on the other side. If you're dating someone who is inconsistent and neglects you and doesn't value you, please end that relationship. Stop wasting your time watering that grass. What you're going to find is when you go over to the other side and find a partner who actually wants to cultivate a healthy relationship with you, who wants to pull the weeds and water the soil, you're going to experience growth and love that you would have never found if you were still trying to water dead grass by yourself. Sometimes you have to save your water for good soil, right? But if you both actually want green grass in your relationship, then learn what water looks like. Because water is appreciation and consideration and selflessness. Water is building trust with them. Water is being a safe place for them when they have a feeling or need or, God forbid, a complaint. Water and sunlight and fertilizer for your relationship means revisiting moments of disconnection or hurt and reminding them and reassuring them you care about what they're going through and what they went through. It means being curious and trying to understand and ask questions and validating their pain or feelings of betrayal or rejection as real and important to you. Water means turning towards them more, looking out for ways you can love them in the ways that they feel it most. Pulling weeds means not allowing resentment or silence to build up because you're actively checking in with one another, saying, hey, if anything's on your heart, I want to know because I love you. All right, next myth, your relationship should make you happy. This one's a bit tricky, of course, because obviously I want you to feel fulfilled in your relationships. And if you were dating someone and you chronically didn't feel happy, you didn't experience joy with your partner, well, that's a problem, of course, because so often we can't find the courage to end those relationships because of our own fears of being single or misplaced hopes that things might get better in the future. Your relationship isn't designed to make you happy. I mean, your relationship should add to your happiness. It should complement, but it shouldn't be the deciding factor. And I know that sounds harsh, and I know full well how much our relationship really does impact our happiness. I mean, when you're with someone who doesn't value you, when you're with someone who you don't feel safe with, or who minimizes your concerns or feelings or needs, of course you're going to be miserable. That's completely understandable, and I want you to be happy in your relationships. I just don't want your relationship to be the sole deciding factor on whether or not you experience any joy or happiness in your life. All right, next myth. Everything will be fine once you find your soulmate. No, soulmates don't exist. A great relationship is built. It's not luck. You're compatible with hundreds of thousands of people. Now, I'm not saying don't worry about compatibility because of course that matters a lot. Please find someone who you're physically compatible with, intellectually compatible with, religiously, all that stuff. But just know that even when you find that person, you're still going to struggle with them. You don't find a soulmate. You build a great relationship with someone through humility and compassion and understanding and listening and serving and sacrificing for each other. All right, next myth, having kids will strengthen your relationship. And all the parents said, definitely not. Having kids is a wonderful experience. It will transform your relationship as a whole and you as a person. Becoming a father was one of the best things that happened in my life. I'm so proud to be a dad to my 4 kids. And it's still true that having kids destroyed our relationship because the additional stress exposed how weak our foundation actually was from the start. Our relationship was not on a solid foundation of trust and communication and emotional maturity or intimacy. We avoided conflict like the plague, which meant we didn't actually have any connection or vulnerability either. Once kids put additional stress on the relationship, it cracked easily. The kids didn't ruin it. We ruined it by staying ignorant to how weak our bond actually was together. So if your relationship is unhealthy before kids, it will only get worse once they come. Please get help. Please get healing before hurting your spouse or your children with your past trauma manifesting itself through immaturity or criticism or shutting down or passive aggressiveness. And I'm not talking about perfection. None of us have the perfect relationship. I don't need perfect from you. I just need you both to actually understand that you're either intentionally strengthening your bond together through learning about healthy communication and emotional connection, or you're unintentionally weakening your bond together by ignoring or neglecting those things. All right, next myth. If you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. What? Why would someone need to handle you at your worst? What does that even mean? Does that mean you're entitled to treat your partner however you want to, and then you don't need to take any accountability for your words or actions because you're also really nice to them sometimes? That's one of the most immature things I've ever heard. How about we work on healing those worst parts of you? You know, if you get heated and yell and call them names and belittle them or lose your temper and break up with them or hurt them, that's not okay. We all make mistakes, but mature people are working to heal and grow and learn. Immature people find a way to stay the same or blame you for why you're not handling my authentic self. Well, your authentic self is going to be single really soon. All right, next myth. If they love you, they should know what you're thinking or feeling. Here's what we know. We know no one can read our minds, and we shouldn't expect our partner to know everything about us without us communicating that, right? And we also know that if you're with someone for long enough, you're supposed to be learning about each other. You're supposed to be studying them. Don't tell me you know everything about the roster of your favorite sports team, but you have no idea what your partner needs to feel valued and prioritized. That just shows me where you're placing importance, because you learn about and study things that are important to you naturally. If you have no idea what your partner is thinking or feeling, that shows me that your relationship is not important enough for you to learn about. And that needs to change. And if you ask your partner something like that, and they say, you should already know what I need, I would explore and validate that. I would say, it sounds like you're feeling frustrated and maybe hurt that despite how long we've been together, I don't know what you need to feel loved. That makes sense. I would feel upset too. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to heal that pain. That's at least a step in the right direction towards being able to have those talks again where they feel safe to open up and talk about their feelings and needs, which they need to do. Only saying, well, you should just know, and then never actually being vulnerable isn't maturity. It's playing the victim role so you can either feel superior or hold on to your resentment. All right, next myth. Good relationships don't require boundaries. No, this sort of goes along with the myth of like love should be unconditional, which is also false. Boundaries are essential in relationships because boundaries represent who you are as a person. If you didn't have boundaries in a relationship, that means that you would end up doing things that you weren't actually comfortable with, which we all do from time to time in a relationship, but where does that leave us? It leaves us feeling neglected or mistreated or unsafe. It leaves us resenting our partner or ourselves. Boundaries help prevent that. Boundaries are simply, hey, these are my lines, my non-negotiables, my guardrails. I'm not forcing you to respect them, but I will honor them because I respect and honor myself. And if we love someone, we should want to know what their boundaries are. We shouldn't want them feeling overextended or exhausted or depleted or pressured or uncomfortable, right? That's not something we want for someone we love. So ask them what their boundaries are. What are your boundaries around conflict, yelling, name-calling, throwing things? Get clear on what the appropriate response is going to be when those things happen. And then make sure that you're honoring your own boundaries, not expecting them to respect them. We have to respect them first. All right, next myth, a relationship should always be 50-50. Okay, I can agree and disagree with this one. On one hand, yes, I want your relationship to be equal and reciprocal, and that's kind of 50-50, right? On the other hand, within a long-term relationship, there will be plenty of times where you have to pick up the slack or vice versa. So some seasons it's 80-20, some seasons it's 70-30, and that's normal. The problem is if it stays like that. Because we can all have different things that come up in our life. Maybe you go through a season of depression. Maybe there's a tragedy in your life and your relationship just gets put on the back burner for a little while. That's manageable. What's not manageable is if it stays on the back burner forever. Seasons are one thing. Years are a different thing. My goal isn't 50-50, it's 100-100, which means that I'm going to show up as the best partner that I can. Some days that looks different than others, but my goal is to give the appropriate amount of energy to this relationship for it to stay healthy and connected, which means it requires certain things from me: time, energy, attention, affection. I can't always give the same amount of those things, but I should always be striving to maintain trust and intimacy in this relationship over the long term, right? All right, next myth: if you're truly in love, you'll never be attracted to anyone else. It's not true. You're still going to be attracted to other people. Now, how you go about that is very important. That doesn't mean it's okay to flirt with other people or fantasize about them. That might be an indicator that something's off within yourself or the relationship. But just being attracted to other people, I'm fairly confident that that's unavoidable. If I were you, I would just ask myself, what is the deeper meaning behind this attraction? Is there a need or a longing or a desire that I've been suppressing in myself? Is that why this is coming up? All right, next myth: you should always put your partner's needs before your own. This is a good one for me because I'm always talking about mutual selflessness, right? And yes, I want your relationship to kind of be like a serving competition. I want you both to be putting each other's needs above your own at times, and at the same time, I don't think it's always healthy to always be putting their needs above your own. I mean, we talked about boundaries earlier. Having a boundary means putting my needs above your own. I have a need that conflict with someone else doesn't include name calling or yelling. I will not be yelled at. That's a need. And if they said, well, I have a need to fully express myself and not be controlled by you, I can talk or yell however I want. And if I told you, okay, just put their need above yours, that wouldn't be very healthy, would it? So no, don't always put your partner's needs above your own. But yes, both of you need to learn what your partner needs to feel close and connected and valued, and consistently prioritize them if you want this relationship to work. If you don't care whether this relationship is going to work or not, then do whatever you want. All right, next myth: you should stay in the relationship for the sake of the children. Yes, you should do everything you can to avoid divorce. Yes, you should do everything you can to have a healthy relationship so you can model what actual love and respect look like for your kids, so they know what emotional connection and safety and vulnerability actually looks and feels like. But no, you shouldn't stay in a relationship simply for the sake of the children. If you're with a toxic individual and they have an addiction, if they're abusive in any way, physically or emotionally or financially, then you shouldn't feel guilty about leaving that relationship. Of course I want people to stay together. Of course I don't want kids to suffer from a divorce. But make no mistake, people are already suffering. The kids are suffering from the abuse or fighting or neglect. The kids aren't being done any favors by one parent sticking it out with someone who's abusive. They are most likely learning that someone can say or do whatever they want. They can treat mom or dad however they want, and the loving thing to do is simply to shut up and take it. When what they should be learning is healthy boundaries around holding people accountable to their own actions. What they should be learning is that a relationship is precious. It's like a gift. And when we walk all over it, when we hurt the people that we say we love with our words and actions and refuse to apologize or change, we don't deserve a relationship. What they should be learning is that when people say they love us, but they treat us like crap, believe the actions, not the words. What they should be learning is that they are valuable and worthy of kindness and respect. And when someone treats them otherwise, we set boundaries or distance ourselves from unsafe people, even people we love. All right, next myth: your childhood doesn't have that much impact on your relationship. Completely wrong. Your childhood and your past relationships most likely have a massive impact on your current relationship. Your childhood was a classroom, and you were learning things whether you wanted to or not. You were learning whether or not it's safe to trust people. You were learning whether or not it's safe to express your feelings or needs, or whether or not that was going to lead you to feeling dismissed or disconnected from the people you loved. It's estimated that half of the population has insecure attachment. And where does that come from? It comes from our childhood. The reason we have a fear of abandonment, the reason we carry around all this shame with us, the reason we're actually terrified of deep intimacy and we avoid vulnerability like the plague, is because throughout our childhood it was conditioned in us that those things only lead to either abandonment or rejection. And what happens is we don't even know that we have these fears. We don't even know that we have these emotional blocks around connection or closeness. And even if we actually want a relationship, we were never taught the skills necessary to maintain one. That doesn't mean we can't learn or heal, but my point is our childhood often plays a massive role in developing how our nervous system responds to certain stimuli. And the place where that is most tested is our most important romantic relationships. That's when the stakes are the highest, and when we get triggered without realizing it. That's when our fight, flight, or freeze takes over, right? So do me a favor and reflect on your fears and triggers and reactions. Your body is trying to protect you. but it will do so even while hurting someone you love. So pay attention to that. All right, I really hope you guys enjoyed that. Please write in the comments which myths that I forgot. And if you enjoyed this, please hit the like or subscribe. Do all the things so it gets pushed out to people. Thank you. I appreciate you. Can't wait to see you in the next one.